Well, we are getting closer and closer and closer, ladies and gentlemen, to nearing the end of the albums list left for 2014. This is the first of 8 or so remaining left. There's a couple that have already been released in the past week or so that I have to check out at some point, and then the rest are albums that are coming out in the month of November, so I'll be able to check them out by those dates. But for this one, we're going to be reviewing the brand new double album from Devin Townsend. And the double album's called Z2 or Ziltoid 2. And it's a 2-disc set double album. The first CD's called Sky Blue. The second album is Dark Matters. That's why in the title it says Devin Townsend Z2, Sky Blue, and Dark Matters album reviews. Because it's a 2-disc CD set. One disc is called Sky Blue. The other disc is Dark Matters. A brief history about Devin Townsend, the individual. Devin Townsend is a prominent heavy metal musician that's from Canada. That started one of his first bands was Strapping Young Lad, which was like an extreme progressive industrial thrashy metal band with Gene Hoglan and a bunch of other guys. Then he would later on branch out into a solo career where he would have the Devin Townsend Band, his solo albums, the Devin Townsend Project, which this double album includes the Devin Townsend solo album and the Devin Townsend Project all coming together on this double album affair. So there's going to be different inputs going on throughout the whole double album. So we kicked off for the first disc, Sky Blue. Straight off the gate, the first 5 tracks, Rejoice, Fallout, Midnight Sun, A New Rain, and Universal Flame, was all just beautifully put together. The first 2 tracks were very heavy songs, but then when you get throughout the later portions of the album, it starts going from the heaviness more into like a more of a beautiful prog rock kind of vibe going on. And that's the purpose of Sky Blue, is to be a lot more of a prog rock with a bit of a metallic input in there. But we get towards the end of the album with songs such as Forever and Before We Die. 2 very, very beautiful songs. The song Forever really kind of reminds me a lot of the song Lost Love by Judas Priest off of the Nostradamus album, for its keyboards and its orchestrations and its beauty behind it. Same what happened with this song, and just with the background vocals from the female background vocalists, who I don't know their names, they just did an excellent job on like the songs on Sky Blue. The middle portion of the album, songs from Warrior, the song Sky Blue, Silent Militia, and Rain City, were all songs that were very good and mellow songs. Just not what I was expecting. I mean, Sky Blue was more of like a pop, hard rock kind of vibe going on, while the other songs were a lot more of an old school prog kind of sound, which worked, but it just that middle portion of that first disc was just not there for me compared to the first part of the album and the second part, where it ended off with a beautiful outro, The Ones Who Love. So that did it for disc 1. Disc 1 I thought was a good first disc, but to me, I mean, while the songs in the middle were good, they were just mostly filler. To me, at least, for the other songs of the record. But disc 2, Dark Matters. Wow. You want to talk about diversity with beauty and heaviness and a cool story. The second disc, Dark Matters, is where it was at for me. I mean, pretty much just the whole thing about that second disc was all going back to it was like a sequel to an album Devin did about 2007ish, which was about Ziltoid and stuff. It really continued on with this album, with this second disc. Whereas the first disc, it was just more of like individual stories in that was in the realm of Ziltoid. But with Dark Matters, it brought in the more epic storylines with guest people doing voices. One of in which, as a character named Captain Spectacular, was voiced by none other than Chris Jericho, which is awesome. So, and I really love the dialogues that were done on Dark Matters with that cool dude's voice and just the story behind it. But we kicked it off with the song Z2, Ziltoid 2. And it was just, I mean, that song was just like the tip of the iceberg for what this album was to be. It was a great opening track that had the space circus kind of element to it that just really made the song a very, very crazy but heavy and awesome. From Sleep Awake was like mostly the dialogue stuff, but there was some musical aspects to it where we got to first hear Captain Spectacular, Chris Jericho. But Ziltoid Empire and War Princess and Death Ray, March of Poozers were all just favorite tracks of mine from both discs. It was just an awesome journey throughout those entire tracks. I mean, really, the first disc, it was all very well connected. Same with the second disc, which made for the concept album of the Ziltoid story, made it really, really interesting to see how this album was to progress in the terms of progressive metal. And that's what progressive metal is all about. It's all about storytelling, musicianship, and challenging music. But yeah, like the whole concept, the theme is about Ziltoid against the worlds and stuff. Wandering Eye was more of the dialogue, which made it a good song, but that was probably one of the weaker songs on the album, probably the weakest song on the album, if you ask me. But I tell you, the next two tracks were probably my favorite tracks of the album: the song Earth and Ziltoid Goes Home. With the Jericho Captain Spectacular stuff going on in the background of those two tracks, and the epic battle that ensues between the War Princess and the Ziltoid humans and Captain Spectacular, it just made those songs very, very epic, but also very heavy too. Through the Wormhole was a great dialogue that led into the closing track of the album and of the whole thing, Dimension Z. It was a very good song, don't get me wrong, but I just didn't think it was as good as the other songs like Earth and stuff like that. But at the end, you get the dialogues at the very end saying, "To be continued." So we're going to get another album in the Ziltoid cycle for Devin Townsend, potentially. Probably. But overall, this album was really good. Despite the first disc, Sky Blue, having a bunch of filler, it kind of hurt the album a little bit, but not too much. Because Dark Matters, aside from two tracks, it was a great second disc. Dark Matters was, I thought, way better than Sky Blue. Because on Dark Matters, you had the storyline, the dialogues, and the instrumentation, and the structuring, and the elements going on Dark Matters was just over the top, and I really, really liked it. So, with that being said, the structuring on the album, on the discs on the album, was very good. Great stuff. The space elements going on throughout both discs were really good. The dialogue and the storyline in Dark Matters was amazing. The production on this album was rock solid. The guitars and the instrumentation was just unbelievable on the album. I mean, Devin and the boys definitely know how to play their instruments. The mixture of the first disc having more of the beauty element and the second disc being the more epic heavy stuff, it made for an interesting mixture of styles. But at the end of the day, I think the second disc, Dark Matters, was better than the first disc. But as far as the whole 23-track stories, really good album, double album. But the problems I really had was in Dark and Sky Blue. In the middle of the album was kind of filler at times, but they were still good songs, but they were just mostly filler for me. And it was pretty lengthy, but I tell you, waiting for Dark Matters and the great songs on Sky Blue was well worth the lengthy. Very good stuff. 8.5 out of 10. Devin Townsend is one evil genius when it comes to heavy metal and conceptual metal or conventional metal with the structuring and stuff. I mean, he's always been a hell of a progressive, extreme metal player. But with these two discs on the double album, Z2, he definitely showed that he can put all of his influences into a big, epic double album. With that being said, what did you guys think of Devin Townsend's Z2, the double album? Let me know in the comments. But anyways, peace.